The storm hit Krythar, 9 like a wall of acid and lightning. Mara Kellan's drop pod pierced through the toxic clouds, shaking violently as jagged bolts crackled across the dark sky. Outside, the planet's surface was a jagged panorama of blackened mountains, acid rivers, and swaying fields of crystalline flora that reflected the storm's violet lightning. Her squad's chatter was minimal, replaced by the sharp hiss of atmospheric stabilizers and the muted groan of the pod hull under stress. "Hold tight," Mara snapped into the calm. Her voice was calm, controlled, everything a commander needed when the world itself tried to kill you. "We're about to remind these aliens why humans survive where others perish." Lieutenant Rico Vega, perched beside her, let out a humorless chuckle. "You mean the Lirax think we're reckless? They have no idea." "They'll find out soon enough," Mara said, scanning the readouts. Life signs in the valley below were sparse. Predators moved with precision, avoiding the pod's heat signature but leaving subtle disturbances in the terrain sensors. Typical Deathworld conditions. The pod's thrusters flared as it neared the ground. Lightning struck nearby, and the impact sent a shockwave through the hull. Mara gritted her teeth, gripping the console. "Brace yourselves." Impact. The pod skidded across a jagged plateau, sparking where metal met stone. Outside, acidic mist hissed against the hull. The squad emerged in staggered formation, exosuits protecting them from corrosive air and jagged terrain. Every footstep left shallow impressions in the brittle crystal ground. Mara surveyed the landscape. The Lirax base floated on stilts over a blackened chasm, tethered by energy lines that glowed dimly through the storm. She could see them now. The Lirax diplomats, sleek and translucent, eyes glimmering with caution and curiosity. A translator drone buzzed to life, relaying the Lirax greeting in broken English. "Earth warriors, you are not as we expected." Mara's lips twitched into a faint smirk. "Good," she said. "Expectations make people soft." The Lirax ambassador floated closer, its elongated limbs swaying unnaturally in the wind. "Your methods dangerous. Our planet fragile. You, destruction." "We adapt," Mara said, voice even, eyes scanning the horizon for threats. "Fragile planets survive when humans are here. That's the rule." Rico whispered beside her. "You really know how to win hearts and minds, Captain." Mara ignored him, already turning attention to the first signs of Zhar'Koi incursions. Drones, sleek and black, flitted above the storm clouds, scanning the terrain with deadly precision. Sensors indicated several ground squads advancing along the valleys. Not elite infantry yet, but enough to probe defenses and test reactions. "Squad, spread out. Use terrain for cover. Watch the winds, they carry more than acid today," Mara ordered. Her voice carried authority, each word precise. The team dispersed, moving like shadows against jagged crystal spires. Their mission was simple: establish perimeter, assess alien defense, and survive long enough to make the Zhar'Koi rethink Krythar, 9 as an easy conquest. The first encounter came swiftly. A Zhar'Koi recon drone swooped down, weapons humming. Sergeant Jace Landry reacted instinctively, firing an ion pulse that shattered its propulsion core. The squad advanced, weaving through storms of jagged crystal, acid rains sizzling against armored suits. The Lirax observers recoiled. "You reckless," one whispered through the translator. Mara shrugged. "Practical," she corrected. "Reckless is when you don't survive." Night fell quickly under the alien storm, though night was relative. Jagged lightning streaked the sky, illuminating valleys and molten rivers. Mara's squad set up a temporary base amid jagged spires, the exosuits venting heat and filtering air. She pulled up the holographic map, marking Zhar'Koi positions and potential ambush points. "They'll test us again," Rico said, studying the readings. "You think we're ready? We're never ready. We just survive." Mara's eyes lingered on the sensor blip of a predatory creature lurking beyond the ridge. "That's what humans do. We survive what should kill us." They asked for help, They got Earth's Deathworlders instead. A low growl echoed through the valley. The Lirax flinched visibly. Mara didn't flinch. She crouched beside the console, scanning movement patterns. Ambush. By the looks of it, local fauna. Use it. The squad moved like a single organism, utilizing ridges and jagged terrain to funnel the creature into a trap. Tranquilizers weren't an option. This was survival. Plasma bolts lit the acidic air, and the beast fell, writhing but contained. You see, Mara said to the ambassador hovering nearby. Deathworlders don't panic. They adapt. The Lirax was silent, watching the team with a mixture of fear and fascination. We underestimated you, it admitted finally. Mara allowed herself a small nod. Underestimation kills, she said. And we're still alive. By the end of the first night, the squad had mapped the valley's hazards, neutralized 3 incursions, and established defensive positions. The storm raged on, relentless, but they moved with purpose, marking each hazard and potential ambush point for the battles ahead. Before sleep cycles, Mara gathered the squad. Listen. Zhar'Koi will think this planet is easy. They'll come with ships, weapons, strategy. But they haven't faced humans trained on Deathworlds. They don't know we thrive where others die. Tomorrow, we show them exactly what that means. Rico smirked. You always have to make it personal, huh? Mara's smile was grim. It's personal whenever survival is on the line. Above them, lightning forked violently across the alien sky, illuminating a world most species would flee. Mara didn't flinch. Not her squad. Not today. Krythar, 9 would survive. Not because it was safe, but because humans refused to die. And somewhere, beyond the storms and the jagged peaks, the Zhar'Koi were watching, unknowing that the first wave of Deathworlders had arrived. Dawn on Krythar, 9 was a deceptive thing. The storm had abated just enough to reveal a sky smeared with violet clouds, jagged silhouettes of crystalline spires stretching like fingers toward the heavens. The air was thick with residual acid mist, clinging to exosuits and equipment. Mara Kellan surveyed the terrain from the ridge above their temporary base, her hands resting on the rail of her makeshift observation post. We've got Zhar'Koi movement along the eastern valley, Lieutenant Rico Vega reported, pointing at the holographic display. Red dots flickered like angry embers. Small squads, but disciplined. Testing our perimeter. Mara's eyes narrowed. They think they can probe us. Good. We'll make them regret it. She turned to the squad, her tone sharp. Spread out along the ridgelines. Use the terrain to your advantage. No open ground. They'll learn that humans fight differently. The squad moved with precision, each member an extension of the other. Sergeant Jace Landry set up sensor mines along jagged spires, while Engineer Lyra Vance calibrated environmental traps to channel acid runoff into predictable zones. Every detail mattered. Humans thrived on adversity, but the key was controlled adversity. Chaos without planning was death. From the ridge below, the Lirax ambassador drifted closer, translucent limbs quivering in the alien wind. Your methods, it said, voice wavering through the translator drone. Excessive. Cruel. There must be another way. Mara didn't flinch. There's another way. It's called dying. Our way keeps us alive. And if you want Krythar, 9 to survive, you'll learn fast. The Lirax shifted, as if uncomfortable with Mara's blunt pragmatism. Our species, we value life differently. Your efficiency disturbs us. Rico muttered under his breath, but loud enough for the Lirax to hear. They'll get used to it, or they won't get used at all. Mara ignored him, focusing on the valley below. Shadows moved, Zhar'Koi scouts emerging from jagged ridges, armored and precise. Mara raised her hand. Engage on my mark. Draw them in. The humans advanced, funneling the scouts into narrow passes where the terrain worked in their favor. Plasma rifles flared, striking the alien armor, while sensor-triggered mines erupted with surgical timing. The Zhar'Koi faltered, surprised by the humans' use of environment as a weapon. The Lirax observed silently, disbelief evident in every flicker of their translucent form. One scout unit tried to flank the squad through a narrow canyon. Mara anticipated it, rerouting a secondary squad and sealing the pass with electrified spike. The flanking attempt failed. The Zhar'Koi crushed under controlled terrain hazards rather than brute force. After the engagement, Mara gathered her team on the ridge, watching smoke curl over the valley. "Good work," she said. "They're testing, not committing. That means tomorrow, they'll bring more." Sergeant Landry shook his head. "And you want us to lure them into traps again? That's bold." "Not bold," Mara corrected. "Necessary. Humans adapt. Other species retreat. They'll learn the hard way. That's survival." Lyra Vance glanced toward the Lirax, whose eyes glimmered with unease. "They don't understand why we do this," she said quietly. "They will," Mara replied. "They have to." The day progressed into a tense rhythm of reconnaissance and preparation. Mara reviewed satellite and drone scans, identifying choke points, ridges for ambush, and the natural hazards of the alien terrain. She mapped every valley, river of acid, and unstable crystal formation for tactical use. Every feature was a potential weapon, or a potential death trap if misused. Later, the Lirax approached again, more insistent. "Why risk so much?" We offered guidance. "You destroy more than protect." Mara's eyes were cold. "We protect by destroying their advantage. You call it destruction, we call it survival. Krythar 9 stays intact because we make it costly for invaders. Simple." The Lirax seemed to hesitate, processing the human logic. "Your philosophy, paradoxical." "It's called reality," Mara said. "Welcome to it." As night fell, the squad implemented a series of layered defenses. Energy nets concealed by crystal spires, camouflaged sensor mines, acid runoff traps, all integrated into a single, lethal system. Humans didn't wait for Zhar'Koi mistakes. They engineered them. Suddenly, sensors indicated multiple hostile units approaching, far larger than before. Mara clenched her jaw. "They've brought reinforcements." "Squad, move to defensive positions. This is the real test." The ambush began. Lightning flashed, illuminating dozens of Zhar'Koi troops advancing through valleys. Plasma fire cut through the night as Mara coordinated her squad with precision. Each Deathworlder operated independently, yet the group moved like a single organism, anticipating, adjusting, exploiting terrain. The battle was brutal but controlled. Zhar'Koi technology was superior, yet the humans' use of environmental traps and guerrilla tactics turned the odds. One Zhar'Koi walker misstepped into a channel of acid runoff, dissolving its armor. Another squad was funneled into electrified spike. Humans were not stronger, not faster. They were relentless, adaptive, unpredictable. In a brief lull, Mara called a halt. "Check for survivors, regroup, and prepare for counterattack," she ordered. Her eyes scanned the horizon, calculating the enemy's next move. The Lirax drifted nearby, voice trembling through the translator. "Your methods, horrifying effective. I cannot approve, but—" Mara didn't wait for the conclusion. "But it works. That's the point. Zhar'Koi will think twice before underestimating us again. Remember this moment, Ambassador. Humans fight differently. We survive differently. That's why we're here." Rico muttered under his breath, smirking, "Different enough to scare even the aliens." Mara allowed herself a faint smile, then turned attention to the valley. Sensors indicated regrouping enemy unit. "Tomorrow," she said, voice low, "we hit them harder. They'll learn that surviving Krythar 9 is not a matter of luck. It's a matter of facing humans. And humans don't die easily." The night was quiet, but only in the sense that the storm had passed. Mara knew the real battle was yet to come, but for now they had shown Krythar 9 and the Lirax what humans could do. Not with finesse, not with subtlety, but with relentless adaptability and a willingness to embrace what others feared. Above the jagged horizon, lightning forked once more. Mara's eyes reflected its brilliance. They asked for help, she whispered. They got humans instead. Let's see who survives tomorrow. The first light of Krythar IX's sun barely pierced the thick violet clouds. Mara Kellan stood atop the highest ridge overlooking the Lirax capital, now teetering on the brink of invasion. Below, valleys were alive with movement, Zhar'Koi forces massing, their blackened armor glinting ominously, their dreadnoughts rumbling with lethal intent. Estimated enemy strength. Triple what we've faced, Lieutenant Rico Vega reported, eyes wide as he scanned the holographic map. They brought walkers, assault units, everything. Mara didn't flinch. Good, she said, her voice calm, measured. They think overwhelming numbers are enough. They haven't counted on us. The squad moved silently along jagged spires, weapons ready, sensors attuned to every shift in the terrain. Sergeant Jace Landry checked mines one last time, Lyra Vance recalibrated the environmental traps, and scout units positioned themselves along ridge edges. Every Deathworlder understood their role. Every movement was a calculation. The Lirax ambassador hovered nervously nearby, translucent limbs quivering. Your humans will this risk too much? Mara didn't answer immediately. She observed the enemy. The Zhar'Koi had learned from previous encounters. They were cautious, precise, but rigid. Risk? She finally said, voice low. Yes. Survival requires risk. But we calculate every step. That's why we're still standing. Suddenly, a scout alarm blared. Zhar'Koi walkers advanced down narrow valleys, firing plasma bursts that lit the air with violent orange streak. Mara raised her hand. Now. The ambush was lethal. Humans struck with precision, channeling the enemy into preset trap. Acid runoff channels claimed one walker, electrospike grids disabled another. Mara's team coordinated like a single organism, predicting enemy maneuvers, exploiting terrain, striking decisively. The Zhar'Koi were methodical, but humans were unpredictable. They thrived on improvisation. A Zhar'Koi squad attempted to flank the ridge, forcing Mara to make a critical decision. Rico, reroute the left flank. Landry, set secondary traps. Lyra, prepare the high ridge ambush. Within moments, the enemy was ensnared. Plasma fire erupted from concealed positions, while environmental hazards turned the terrain into a battlefield favoring humans. One dreadnought fell into a channel of acid runoff, its armor melting with a hiss that echoed across the valley. The Lirax observed silently, a mixture of awe and horror. Efficient, brutal, it murmured. Mara didn't look at them. Efficient keeps people alive. Brutality is a term for those who fail. During the lull between assaults, Mara climbed a ridge, surveying the battlefield. Zhar'Koi forces regrouped, their commander, General Zirac, visible on a hovering command platform. Mara could see the arrogance in his posture, the belief that humans were primitive, predictable, and expendable. They underestimate us, Mara whispered. That's their mistake. Rico muttered, underestimation kills. Should we tell them? Mara ignored the joke, focusing on strategy. She called for squad communications, detailing traps, ambush points, and fallback positions. Every Deathworlder knew the stakes. Failure wasn't an option. Not for them, not for Krythar IX. The Zhar'Koi launched their final assault at dusk. The valley erupted in fire and plasma, crystal spires shattering under the intensity of battle. Mara led from the front, targeting command units, disabling communications, and coordinating ambushes. Humans moved like lightning across hazardous terrain, turning environmental threats into weapons. Each strike was deliberate, each maneuver calculated. During the battle, a massive Zhar'Koi walker advanced directly toward the Lirax capital. Mara weighed her options. Destroy it with all available firepower, risking structural collapse and civilian casualties, or find an alternative. Lyra, high-yield traps. Landry, focus fire on the joint. We can disable it without total destruction, Mara ordered, voice sharp and unyielding. The squad executed flawlessly. The walker collapsed into a controlled fall, sparks and acid hissing as it struck the valley floor. Civilians cheered, though quietly. The Lirax didn't fully understand the humans' methods, but they saw the result: survival. General Zhar'Koi appeared visibly shaken on his command platform. Mara noted his hesitation. Humans, small and outnumbered, had turned his massive assault into chaos. "Squad, push forward," Mara commanded. "End this now." They moved as one, ambushing scattered enemy units, dismantling their coordinated advance, and forcing a retreat. Zhar'Koi soldiers fled in disarray, unable to anticipate human ingenuity combined with extreme environment training. After the battle, Mara surveyed the valley. Smoke and acid mist hung in the air, but Krythar 9 was still standing. The Lirax slowly approached, eyes reflecting shock, awe, and newfound respect. "You survived," the ambassador whispered. "You humans, extraordinary." Mara allowed herself a small, grim smile. "We survive. That's what humans do. It's not luck. It's not technology alone. It's adaptation, determination, and a willingness to face what others flee." Rico grinned. "Adaptation with a side of explosives. Classic us." Mara's gaze shifted toward the horizon, where retreating Zhar'Koi ships vanished into violet clouds. "They'll regroup," she said. "But they'll remember this planet and remember humans. Survival isn't just about winning battles. It's about teaching others that humanity thrives where others falter." The Lirax ambassador hovered beside her, voice trembling with reluctant admiration. "Your methods harsh but effective. Krythar 9 owes its survival to you." Mara's eyes softened just slightly. "We don't fight for thanks. We fight because we can't afford not to. This planet lives today because we chose to act, not because it was easy. Remember that." As night fell, the squad consolidated, tending minor injuries and securing the battlefield. Mara checked sensor readings, ensuring no enemy units remained. The Lirax capital was intact, and the Zhar'Koi threat temporarily repelled. Humans had triumphed, not through brute force alone, but through strategy, adaptability, and the relentless human will to survive. Mara looked at her squad. "We did what others couldn't. Tomorrow, the universe will hear stories of Krythar 9 and the humans who saved it. Remember this moment. Humanity doesn't surrender. We endure. And we fight back, no matter the odds." Above the jagged horizon, violet lightning forked once more. Mara's reflection mirrored in her visor. Fierce, unyielding, a human Deathworlder ready to survive whatever came next. And somewhere in retreating shadows, General Zhar'Koi pondered a species he had dismissed for weakness, and learned, far too late, that humans were anything but.